Hey, it's Gene from the Assisted Living Network, and today we're going to talk about activities for seniors. Activities for seniors come in a lot of different categories, but one is the mind and the other is the body. When we talk about the mind, that social interaction, the spiritual interaction, the intellectual interaction with themselves personally and with others is incredibly important and very valuable to having somebody be healthy as they're aging in place. And in the body, well, some people's physical capabilities are getting to the point where it's very limiting, but we'll talk about both of those. Let's talk about the physical first, because we all know that there are certain things that seniors can do now, could do earlier, and things do change. So mobility is the biggest issue. If somebody is able to walk and walk quickly or slowly or just motate, as I call it, that's great, that's a big plus. But maybe they're in a walker, and a walker is basically for balance and stability, but that balance and stability doesn't mean that they can't move forward or up and down. So there's still activities, even exercises that can be done while somebody is using a walker. If somebody's in a wheelchair, now that is different because we're very limited as to what we can do, but not completely limited. We got a new exercise equipment in our home. It's one of those machines that shakes and it vibrates. And there's some health benefits to that, but one is just simply stimulating the muscles. And even if somebody's in a wheelchair, they can just put their feet on that pad instead of standing there and going full blown. They can just put their feet on the pad and it adds to the motation, that vibration, the ability for that blood flow to happen. So there's all levels of physical activity, but again, as somebody ages, it typically does get more limited. So in our assisted living homes, we do everything from senior yoga, which isn't downward dog, it's more like sit up straight and reach for the sky, and senior yoga. It could be lightweight exercise, those 2-pound dumbbells or weights that you've always wondered who in the world's going to use these, can be perfect for seniors. It could be the stretch bands. Those stretch bands can create a lot of tension that again to you and I may not seem like a lot, but to a senior can be fantastic for their physical interaction. And as they continue to do this, they'll get better and better. I want you to think about this. When you're working with seniors, think about a little bit, just a little bit is where we start, and then we can increase that. It's the consistency. So I'd rather somebody do 5 minutes a day than do an hour all on a Saturday because they've got the time. That 5 minutes a day is going to lead to consistency. And as they do it for 5 minutes, eventually they can stretch that to 6 or 7. And before you know it, they are doing 20 or 30 minutes. And if you're a senior, 60, 70, 80, 90 years old, and you're doing something regularly, well, that really does add up. So there's the physical aspect. And again, it could be senior yoga, it could be light weights. In our homes, we also have recumbent bikes. So when you think about a treadmill, that's where somebody has to stand and walk. For you and I, that could be easy. For a senior, that could be a big challenge. But a bike at least allows somebody to sit. Recumbent means it's not they're up on top, but they're kind of lower, leaning back a little bit. That recumbent bike is very safe for them because they're lower to the ground, but comfortable. So it's an easy height to get in and out. They're sitting, so they're stable. There might be arm holds on the side of each seat, and they can lean back, so they've got back support. From there, they can just pedal and going forward. Now, it's really great because in some of our homes, some of the seniors have even gotten to the point where they challenge each other. They have little contests where I went for an hour today and somebody else is challenged to go for a little bit more, or I went an average of X number of miles an hour. So it's a wonderful way for them to have social interaction, mind as well as the body. So we talked about senior yoga, the vibration machine, light weights, even a recumbent bike. Those are all typical things. Now I know if you're like me, when I first thought about getting into assisted living and helping seniors, my first thought was, well, they're gonna be out in the backyard playing shuffleboard. They're gonna be out in the backyard maybe playing some tennis. They're gonna be in the backyard in the pool swimming. Well, by the time somebody is in assisted living, and that's what the Assisted Living Network is all about, they're not in the pool, they're not on the tennis court, and they're probably only taking walks around in the backyard. Now, if they were more active, they probably would not be in assisted living. But I want you to think that through. If they come to us and they have a high level of need, and that high level of need is exacerbated because they have a low mobility level, Well, we need to help them with that mobility level, the ability to exercise and move more so that they are healthier, so that they can do more. But it's small, think small, think small. 5 minutes a day is a great place to start. So we talked about the physical, let's now talk about the mind, the mental. I was at a trade show recently, and when I was there, I saw some artwork on the wall, and I walked into the booth and I said, "What is it that you do?" And she said, "We use artwork as therapy for people who have had issues and now they're in rehab and so on." And I had her explain to me what the artwork was all about and how it came about. She actually got into this and started to do it because she had a stroke when she was in her 30s. She was then in the hospital in rehab with people who were 60, 70, and 80 years old, and she was afflicted with the same thing they had. Now that's tragic, but as an artist, and she was an artist and is an artist, as an artist she realized, wow, this is something that can really help people. So she started to create artwork that had tactile, the ability to touch that artwork, which as soon as I saw it, I wanted to go up and touch it. And if you know anything about art, you go to a museum, the first thing they say is, "Can't touch, don't touch." In hers, it's "you have to touch." And I love that right off the bat. So she would create these artwork that you would literally touch and feel. And you could feel the pattern of the paint. You could feel the bumps that were raised. It was kind of this 3D art. And the visual aspect of it was really enticing to the mind. Tantalizing, that's the word I was looking for. Enticing to the mind and tantalizing because it was making me think in a different way. And then she went a step further and she had me put on glasses. Think like 3D glasses, but they're not. And as soon as you put the glasses on, you start to see the colors start to move. One comes in front of the other. And I thought that was fascinating. And then she went one step farther. She said, "Those are not 3D glasses, but I want you to breathe deeply." And as I took a deeper breath and I looked again, the colors became even more vibrant, even farther apart. And what it is the combination of the oxygen coming into the brain, stimulating that brain with these glasses that were separating the colors. It reminded me of National Treasure, where they put on those spectacles and they have the different colors going in, Ben Franklin glasses. So those colors being separated and the oxygen to the brain, it was just a powerful experience. And yet you could have just walked by and said it was a painting on the wall. And then she went through and she shared with me a lot of different things that she is doing. Now that's an art therapy, and that was very unique. But let's just get right back to the basics, reading a book. You know, a lot of people in our generation, we just don't read the way we used to because we can listen, we can watch, we can just sit and be entertained. But the ability to read is something that a lot of seniors who are in assisted living today, they remember, they want to. But it's also harder for them because the eyesight is not as clear as it was before. The fatigue of keeping the eyes open and reading and paying attention. The ability to stay awake, we all know that. You read a book, sometimes it can put you to sleep because you're sitting there quietly. So audiobooks is another great way to go. This allows them to use their mind. I don't know about you, but I do like listening to the radio and talk radio. And when I listen to talk radio, it really makes me think. If I read something myself, it's all about me staying awake, paying attention, staying focused. But if I listen to that story, if I listen to that input, it gives me the time, the ability to think. It's kind of like listening to baseball on the radio. It's a whole different experience than it is listening to baseball while you're seeing it live. It brings out that extra sense, using the mind. So I'm going to share with you that when we work with seniors in assisted living, the ability to interact with them, not just on a physical basis when we talk about activities, but in their mind is incredibly powerful. Some of the other activities are music. Now, you know as well as I, you hear a song and it takes you right back to when you were a teenager, right back to when you first got married, right back to an event. And that music itself can take you right back there very quickly. Seniors, it has been shown that if you play the music from their generation, from when they were teenagers, it really does help with their social, with their mental, with their everything, and bring it in clarity. There's been people with Alzheimer's who, when music is played, brings them right back, and it's incredible what they can do, what they can remember, their communication level, their enjoyment of life. So I'm going to highly encourage you to use music and audio as a tool. We talked about audio books, music, we talked about art on the walls. There's other ways of engaging people socially as well as intellectually in the mind. One of the other ways is to play games. Board games are kind of a thing of the past, but they are coming back. There's a lot of millennials today that get board games and that is their primary entertainment. And I find that fascinating. Every year we get a few new board games that we use at home, but when you think about seniors, if you just go back to the basics, checkers, chess, making puzzles, and then other things that they will probably remember like Monopoly, take them back to games like Clue. We recently got an old game, a throwback game, Masterpiece. But if you bring back some of those games and allow them to play, it allows them to interact using their mind. So we talked about audiobooks, we talked about music, we talked about art on the wall, and we talked about board games. There's other ways to stimulate somebody and have activities as well. But those two categories of the physical as well as the mental, and the mental allows you to add in the social, can really help with keeping that senior vital, active, healthy. Now, we're going to share a lot more, and I appreciate you being here. I look forward to speaking to you on our next segment. Always remember, do good and do well. If you like what you've seen and heard, please subscribe.